Welcome, everybody, to Did She Really Say That? The podcast for female entrepreneurs that want to build a better business and are tired of the way that we continuously build into burnout. So I'm excited today because who I have with us today is Sam, and Sam is amazing. He's been like my business partner in community building for the last, I think, 2.5 years now or something like that. And so I invited him onto Did She Really Say That? Because I want to have this conversation with you as a female entrepreneur that community is one of the biggest elements to growing your business. And often it's overlooked. And a lot of the technology and a lot of the platforms that we've been using to build community are really no longer serving us. So I want to have this conversation of why, I guess I could call it, what is it, be like private labeling, Sam, kind of a thing when you talk about building a community instead of being on somebody else. It's a private label. Would that be right?
Or white labeled,
White labeled. So
or your
white
own safe
labeled.
space. We talk about having your own safe space a lot.
And I love that because I think the safe space is so key, especially when you're bringing women together, especially when we're building communities. We want to have a place where we are heard and our community is heard. So I'm going to let Sam quickly introduce himself to you, though he is just amazing. I will tell you that I love working and partnering with him, and we bounced so many ideas off each other around building business. So if there's anybody that I trust when I say, hey, I've got this idea, I go straight to Sam and he goes, that's a good idea. Or he goes, what if we did this instead? So Sam, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. And on behalf of all of Disciple, we're super proud of working with you and the work that you do and the mission that you're hoping to achieve and you are achieving with the women that you work with. But also you as a business person, we just love working with you. It's a dream. So really pleased to be here today. So my job at Disciple, which is the company I work for, is officially my kind of software name would be a customer success manager, but we wear many hats. And because we work with community, I'm kind of like your community expert, community engagement manager, kind of all of those different things that we would do, as well as supporting you from a customer success manager perspective as well. So Disciple is a tool that is built to help you build your own community. And like I said earlier, safe space away from traditional social media. We know that there's a huge desire and appetite for people to connect and be together. The internet, in some ways, was designed to bring us all together and then drove everybody further apart. And social media was like the biggest driver of that. So that's a really backwards development that seems like it's the wrong way around. And that's kind of where community sits, is to fix that with spaces where people can openly engage around something that they're passionate about. And I think a key thing that we've learned over the course of we've been in this industry for about 10 years. The thing that we've seen grow out of this online community space is that there's a transformational element to all successful communities. So an element of coming together, not just because you're interested in things, because social media serves that well.
Yeah.
But what sets it apart, what we're doing and what you do, is that people come together because they're growing together, they're supporting each other, they're learning. You could maybe think there was a period of time where the internet went crazy on learning management systems and course platforms, and those are valuable, and we have courses ourselves, but it's not an either or. You grow better when you are supported by people. So hopefully we sit across that, and what we enable people to do is have their own white labeled, fully branded as them. You don't even need to know that you work with us if you wanted to. Their own completely white label app in Google and in Android, and we also do a web version as well. So you have a space that you can build with no code, up and running, and we aim to get everybody up and running in it between 3 weeks to 6 weeks. So yeah, it's designed to be a quick turnaround time.
Yeah. So one of the things that really drew me to Disciple was the ability to, I guess you say, white label. Like I didn't have to be on another platform because I felt like that was just the same thing. I was like, to be honest, let's go back. I love and hate the FB place of the world, right? So can we say, yes, we'll say Facebook, whatever, we're fine. This is my podcast. I can say whatever I want. So for me, what I noticed a few years back that really had me start looking for community platforms to build my community or move my community to was the amount of censorship I was getting. Right. And it was started to just drip in, and I would like see people comment on a post or something that I'd put in there. And then it would be like, you can only see relevant content, right? Or relevant comments that were being made to this. So then I had to start digging in to find out what my community was actually saying. And I saw this early on, this kind of like censorship that was happening. And I was like, okay, this no longer is a safe place for my community because I can't actually read what they're trying to convey back to me to help support them better, like you said. So when I went looking for a community-based platform, I did my work. I think I spent 6 months digging through everything. So there are other platforms out there, and I just want you to kind of just touch on them, what you know about them, like what would be some of the differentials. So I know there's ones like Mighty Network, there's things like Circle, there's these different community platforms that are coming up. What really makes disciples stand out from using those ones, which seem to be more cost effective, which I really don't think that in any way, shape, or form. But what would be some comparisons or some ideas around what's different between Disciple and using these other community-based platforms?
Great question. So I think what I will do is say the things that we focus on and that
Okay.
maybe they don't focus on, without being too negative about anybody, because there's a space for different
Oh,
tools.
truly.
What we try to do versus what they try to do, and maybe we're not all looking for the same people.
Mhm.
So what we offer, first of all, I think if we focus on the three areas, is we'll do cost last, and then we'll talk about the technology and the goal. So our goal is really to work with people, like we said, who are trying to help people grow that transformational experience. So some of these other platforms are looking for people who just want to connect, and it's kind of a bit more like Discord. It's just a place to discuss. There's
Mhm.
no necessary element of learning and development on those
It's a
platforms.
forum. They're
Exactly.
forum-based, really. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not that. You can use us for that, but we're best placed if you have that element of growth, and also this we're struggling to find the words to put it ourselves, but what we've picked up is the key trend is that people need to have sort of a shared identity. So sometimes that's like in the case of your community, your business people, but then your extra bit of shared identity is that you're women in the
Yeah.
workplace who are looking to like empower each other and grow. So for other communities, we work with people who've been in the special forces who need kind of a brotherhood, to use that kind of old-fashioned phrase, to support each other afterwards. Or maybe it's women who are into knitting who are in a specific demographic or age range, or it's young people who are from deprived areas. So there's always this extra element that we found that people need a community to be able to fully express themselves in a way that feels natural with people that understand them. And they need to feel, and I'm going to go back to that again, they need to feel safe in doing so, because social media, we know, just doesn't provide that environment as much as they say they do. We know people, perceived or real, don't feel safe to express themselves. So we focus on that. And then that's that kind of, if you think about that as goal in technology, what that means is that we create very, very secure environments for people. They have to have an account to log in. You can choose to make that invite only. But our technology, we are really a mobile first platform. So a lot of our other competitors aren't mobile first. They might have an afterthought that's an app. I would say we're the only community platform that truly is mobile first. So our iOS and Google apps, when you use them, feel really familiar. They feel like something that you've used before, and that's completely intentional. We want that barrier of entry for a member to be really, really small. They open the app and they're like, oh, okay, that's a timeline. I know how that works, or I know how this folder structure works. They see your branding, which you're completely able to control, your color scheme. All of the icons are things that they will have seen. It's internet language that they understand. So because we know we're appealing to a broad range, maybe it's young people who you need to keep engaged because they're TikTok generation. They need something fast. We can do that. But we also know that we're working with communities that are at the upper end of the internet generation, and they maybe don't want to have to learn a new skill to use a community. So we also have our apps be mobile first in that sense. It's really easy, low barrier of entry. And then the
I
last
find
thing,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No. I mean, that's one of my favorite things I think that really drew me to you was that it was its own app based. Like that was one of the things I was like, I want to be able to be mobile friendly, and I don't want to have to be just reliant on a web like based platform. That was really critical for me. So I'm glad you brought that up and mentioned that. That's really the heart and the movement with what you guys do.
Totally, totally. And then the last part is cost. So the difference maybe between us and some of the other competitors that you will see is they'll have a nice super duper low number that you see when you think about signing up for them. And there's some truth to that, but that number tends to be for a version of the product that doesn't really do what we've just talked about. When you want them to start talking about having a bespoke sort of standalone white labeled app and the support that comes with that and getting you onto the app stores, all of these things have extra charges. So you can't actually see the number that will let you get an app onto the App Store. You have to go through their sales team and work it out. And I mean, of course, all software platforms have an element of if you need something bespoke, you need to talk to somebody to get a proper price. But on Disciple, we have two plans currently, Grow and Pro. So Grow will give you a non-white labeled, but an app which mostly your branding and a very small mention of us. And a few features turned off, but you'll have a fully functioning app. You'll be able to brand it. You have a tiny bit of mention of us, and then the rest you can go crazy with groups, folders, whatever it is that you want. Or if you're a pro customer, it's completely fully white labeled and everything we just spoke about. Both of you get the full support of a customer success manager. Both of you have us continue to support you with the app stores. As we know, we love the app stores, don't we? We spend lots of time going back and forth with them. And particularly
alone for me is worth any penny, is that I don't have to deal with the legal and all this stuff. Like, I'm like, Sam, what the heck? And he's like, got it fixed, put it in the note. And I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but thank God you're there so I can focus on taking care of my community. So you have no idea how much I appreciate that from you.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you learn to speak Apple and Google after a while. They have like a special way you need to communicate with them so they get off your back. But it can be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do that. So our goal is to give you an upfront price. This is how much it costs. And the only thing that will ever go up in price is if you suddenly grow massively and you've got loads of members and we just take up a little bit more server space. But we're upfront about that right from the beginning. And we try to bundle as many members as we can at the front because we know that's what most people will need. So yeah, that's the other key difference is we're upfront about the cost and we're the lowest price to have a fully white labeled.
100%. There's no doubt in what you guys provide and just my experience with Disciple, which is why I'm always staying with you guys. I will continue to grow. And because what I've really seen you guys do over the last few years is really develop this platform into that community. And so when you were talking about, what brings us together, I love the fact that as a course creator, I had to have my courses over here, and then I had to send my community over here. And they felt like two disjointed pieces of my business, but they were connected because that's how we communicated about the training. And so what I love with what Disciple has been, at play with is that you allow me to have courses in there that I can then, either sell to them or give them as part of their membership. And I love how that's designed. And then I also love the fact that we have the groups in there that are very I can create specific groups to different levels of business development for my community, right? So I can have that in there. And then the best thing ever that you guys just recently rolled out was the front and center of having events, right? Because we do so much live training in our community. Everyone's always asking, where's the link? Where do I go? And so this element of it being a training community, really working with the women that are building businesses and having that ability to really put front and center the training and events that we're doing is just brilliant. I love everything that I've seen with this, what you guys are doing with Disciple. It is the heart and soul of what I imagine for communities of the future, just having that space and being able to have it all in one container. So thank you for that.
I'm super pleased to hear that. And our head of product, if he's listening, will be super pleased to hear you just mentioned the new feature. But it's interesting that you mention it, though, because the other thing I've not mentioned, the word I've not mentioned all the way up till now, which is almost the other half of community, is membership. That's the key thing, is to make community sustainable. Unless it's a specific business model, so we work with some not-for-profits or faith-based groups, and that's not part of membership, is not part of their model in that sense. But for most people, and most of the people we talked about who are helping groups of people grow together, there needs to be an element to keep it sustainable, for it to be a business. And that's where membership comes in. So community is the place that you grow membership. So many people now keep talking about they want to have annual reoccurring revenue, ARR. You hear that buzzword all the time. How do you turn that into ARR? Well, you do it with community. That's
Yeah.
the answer is you bring people together, you give them value. It's not just the take, it's the give. And that's the bit that people miss. So community is the give to the membership take. And we have all the tools to help you actually take the payment and to reoccur the revenue on whether that's on web. We've got some great tactics and tools we can do to maximize that revenue with you. And we can help you to do that in Apple and Google. We can help you to sell a one-off course if you wanted to do it like that. So we've got lots of different ways that you can monetize because we realize that's a key element. You basically have community and membership, and people have thought about them separately. I think our message is they are the same thing, and it's how you do that well is that will make you successful.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. I think everyone says, oh, I want this community. I want to monetize the community. I want to do that. But a lot of people are paying for people just to be at a community, but they don't have all the features that you guys have within Disciple, which is let's schedule those live or in-person events. Let's, give access, whether it's a premium or a second tier or free to them, like depending on where they're coming in. And that was critical for the growth of our business, was the ability to be able to say, okay, you can come to this live training, but you may not have access to this live training. And I love how you guys gray it out if they can't access like all these awesome new features, which allow for that. Like I'm missing out that FOMO that we often talk about when we're building communities, the fact that they're missing that next level. And it's built into this community in such a genuine and authentic way that you don't feel like you're getting pressured to do it, especially if you're working with someone like Sam as a community manager and that's helping you put this together. His ideas, I kid you not, if you sit down with Sam for like 30 minutes, you're going to be blown away about what you can do with your community. And it's all about what your intention is. So I love, love, love that you guys do that one. So my question for you, having been at this for a long time, is do you see more men building communities or do you typically see more women coming to your platform and building community?
And that is a super interesting question. So actually, it's more women. At the moment, it's definitely more women, and maybe those signals will change in the future. I do think that maybe where we spoke about having the need to have a safe space lends itself to women are maybe more predominantly looking for somewhere where they're able to feel safe. I think that's definitely something to think about in that area. And I don't know, maybe I think traditionally women have been always our community builders. If you think about kind of from a historical perspective, I don't know what you call that in America, but we have like village halls in the UK.
Yeah.
So like a place where people would gather. So many of those things that you would see organized there would be led by women, kind of as far back as you think in history. So I think it's a skill set that comes naturally. So that's definitely something that we see a lot of. But there's great male communities that are starting to think, and I think for men, I think there's an interesting element that we're starting to see come through now about mental health. You think about some of those figures we know worldwide about how men's mental health is something that we still as a sex aren't great at expressing, and so having a community in some way you can do that is a really, really positive thing.
And I love that. So we're definitely seeing a more of a trend right now with women coming to you, coming to Disciple and saying, hey, this is what we want to build. And so let's talk about some of the different, I guess, membership tiers. So just so that they have kind of an idea of what we do. So I know that there's different ways to build memberships within Disciple, within that platform. And I will tell you this for every lady that's listening, even the men that listen to this, the fact that they can connect this all through Google and Apple and get payments structured and build all that out without you having to think about any of it is just another blessing. Why I choose Disciple over and over again is because that payment integration, when you don't have to think about it or keep it up to date, or if something should break, like you have these amazing support that's just right there at your fingertips. And that's another thing that I love. So let's talk about different ways you can build these memberships into this community.
Totally. So we've got 3 key ways of monetizing the community with subscription. So we're thinking about that annual reoccurring revenue. So we've got free, freemium, and premium. So just as a little recap, if you don't know what that is, if those terms are unfamiliar, or how that works with an app, a free app does what it says on the tin. You download the app, you sign in with your email and your password, and maybe you fill out some profile questions and you're in. That's it. The freemium model is that hybrid. So you sign up, you land, and maybe you see a select curated kind of portion of content. So you might get a couple of groups, or maybe a group with a timeline, and you get 1 or 2 folders which has got videos or PDFs or something to entice you. And then what you see around the community is you try to click on some things, and it's what you talked about, they're grayed out or they've got a banner over them, and they say, if you want to see this, well, then you need to sign up and pay for the subscription. And that is, we can then step in, and that can be a monthly or yearly subscription. And if you're on the web, if they're using literally the web URL to access the community, they pay, and it takes them through Stripe. And then with an Apple and Google, it pops up and it's the Apple and Google paywall. So you pay there and then. So that we can get into more detail maybe another time about this benefits to doing it on Stripe versus Apple and Google and how you encourage that behavior, but we can certainly do that. But all of that, offering that in those 3 places is completely within Apple and Google's terms. So there's no need to break any rules if you do it that way. It's all above board, and we can help you to do that. You could even, if you wanted to, sell access to those subscriptions on another web page, which has got nothing to do with Disciple. We can connect to that as well. So there's kind of limitless possibilities in that sense. So then the last of those models is premium, which is you basically have to pay to get in. So that does what it says. You sign in with your email and password, and you hit the paywall next, and you pay there and then, whether that's Stripe, Google, or Apple. And then even within that, you've got the monthly and yearly option, and we can offer free trials. So you could do a day, you could do 3 days, a month, whatever feels right for your community. And it's quite different across industries as well. So that's the kind of like a limitless amount of kind of different options that you can have. Then throw into the mix that we can do multi-tier. So we have what we call a bronze, silver, gold model. So you basically start with a small amount of content and you pay for the next tier up, and you unlock more content, and gold gives you all of the content below and the extra content of gold. So you're able to do multi-tier. And then as if that isn't enough, we can do in-app purchases, particularly courses. We've just rebuilt our in-app purchase process so that if you buy a one-off course, that's a completely separate and really slick process for you. So yeah, there is kind of limitless things that we can help you to do when it comes to monetization.
Yeah, and I love that, honestly. Because I've either touched on different ones of those at some point as I've been working with you guys. We've kind of evolved and shifted, and I think that's the beauty of it, is that the ability to go from a free into a paid, or kind of go back and forth to test things out, has been really simple with you and with the Disciple, right? The fact that we can have that conversation is, okay, well, this will take this. And usually the turnaround time isn't like something extravagant. It's usually like, 24, 48 hours, maybe 72 hours, depending on what's being asked. But after the initial build, once you're up and running, the maintenance of it all is super simple. Like, it doesn't take a lot of time to just update the app. Once you undo it a couple of times, it's simple. And, I love the fact that with Disciple, you have this I really do. I call it an all-in-one business, because especially as a female entrepreneur, having that ability to have courses, having the ability to have the tier, really reduces the need for having that extra cost of a website, a course builder, like all these other things, when you can really wrap that all into one, and then keep that conversation going without sending people all over the internet to be able to ask questions, or lose them in an email, or lose them in a chat because you're on social media. So I love the fact that you have direct messaging in the app. They have the ability to build out their profile. They have the ability to connect with other individuals. Like, this platform, Disciple, is such an amazing tool. When you look at what it all encompasses and what's the possibilities. And I know we haven't even touched on some of the fun features. I haven't even dived into things like geo tracking, and the ability to like do notifications and push notifications instead of text messages. Like, the ability that's locked into this, and the price point for which you offer is really ridiculous. Like, it makes it really cost effective to have at your fingertips something you can grow into as a community builder and as a business builder. I think for women in general, this is absolutely brilliant platform.
And just to give you kind of like 2 things that we're looking at, because what we don't want to do is have Disciple be what it is now. And we want it to continue to grow and evolve as this industry is still kind of maturing. We want to make sure we're giving you the right tools. And as we've seen, in the last 10 years of the internet, things move quickly, and you need to make sure that you have the right tools for that moment. So 2 things that we're really focusing on. We recently updated our live stream functionality, because that is becoming more and more and more important. Um, because you have this ability to keep all of your members close to you because you have them in your own community, we find that the role of host is becoming more and more important. And for a while, people thought that was like you comment on every single post that somebody makes, and that's what a host does. But actually, we're finding more and more it's the tone of voice that the community follows. So the analogy that I've used before is like if you show up to a party and you don't know anybody and nobody makes an effort with you, you're gonna have a terrible time. But you show up to a party and one person takes you by the hand and says, you will love these people. That, you know, they work in the same industry as you, or they have the same interest as you, or they're from the same area. And that is enough. And that's what the host does. And live stream is really the way to do that, because they get to see you, like podcasts. It's people more and more expect to hear you speak and hear how you communicate. And that's why we're focusing on making that as premium as possible, and giving the option to do landscape and portrait, to have multiple people on it, to be able to, you know, even we've got one community that hosts it like a game show. So, you know, you can kind of do limitless things with that. So that's really important. And the other one is discoverability of content. So over time, and you'll speak to this, you grow with the content that you have in your community. So you've got lots of great podcasts and live streams from the past, or, you know, great PDFs and one-off documents that you've made, and they all kind of end up chucked into a bucket somewhere, and it's hard to kind of navigate and find that. So we've improved search, and we're improving the saved for function, so you can find something and save it and go back to it later if you're a member. But we're also allowing you to basically put new content in this dynamic homepage which you reference. So it means, you know, new events show up on that homepage if you want them to, or, you know, new groups show up, and that feature is going to evolve so that members get more dynamic homepage. The content speaks to them quicker. It's less taps for them to find what they want, essentially.
Yeah. And I love that. I mean, honestly, I love the evolution of what Disciple has and is becoming. And I think that that is what you want to get into when you start working with somebody, especially when, if you're a woman that's looking to build a community and you want that app feature, Disciple's it. To be honest, it's the all-in-one that you're looking for. And you're not having to compete or go to these other platforms that you're just one of many inside of there. And you kind of get lost. And even for me, I get lost as a customer because I'm in these platforms for different reasons. And I'm like, it feels like I'm just one of many instead of feeling like one of the group and one of the conversation. And I think that's what's really unique about using Disciple and saying, okay, I want to be able to have this go with me. I can take you on my phone, my tablet, anywhere I go, and still remain really connected to the community. And that for me was super important. So I love this. This has been a phenomenal conversation. For those that are looking to get started with Disciple, what would you be your next step that you would recommend?
Great question. So one of the things that I will acknowledge right now is that we have spoken to some customers over the last kind of year specifically who know that this is the direction of travel, that they want to end up as a membership business. They have a community, or they've got a group of people that want to grow together, or have a shared interest, or a shared demographic and background, but they're not mature enough to be where you are yet. That maybe that they're on the journey to having a fully fledged membership business, and maybe they've got a bit of following on social at the moment and they need a bridge. So I can't say too much, but I can say, even if you're listening to this and you think that's the direction of travel, but I'm not ready yet, we're going to have something for you really soon. So do reach out, because we're going to have like a bridging product that will cover that. I have been given permission. I checked before I came on that I'm not saying anything and get fired for. So I'll still be here. And then for if you are on that journey where you're like, you know what, I have a really solid following on social media, or we have a lady who's she's done kind of case studies with us, who was a really, really big influence in the knitting world. And she sold her patterns as her main kind of business driver. And she thought, hold on, it would be better if I could, instead of just selling all these one-off things to people, I could sell them regular access to each other and to me, and it would be a better way of running my business. If you're maybe like that, you hadn't previously thought of yourself as a community, but you know there could be a membership, then the best thing to do would be to reach out via Katrina. Reach out to her, and I'm sure she'll give you her contact information, because you'll get 10% off if you come through Katrina. So
Mm.
any of the price plans that you see on the website, and we're always happy to work with you and see what the best fit for you is with one of our lovely community experts who will walk that through with you. But yeah, 10% off if you go through Katrina, and she'll make the connection with us. And then yeah, so whether that's a growth product or it's a product to get you ready and with a fully fledged app right now, we're going to have the right tool for you.
I love it. I can't wait. I'm gonna have to bring you back now to talk about this bridge product so we can get some more details on this one when it does happen. But honestly, Sam, thank you so much for being on. Did she really say that? And really talking to the power of community as a business building tool and a way to be able to monetize, create an income. I know that many of us women want that sustainable income. And with what Disciple has to offer, the ability to blend, shift, and grow on this platform and still be able to build that business while taking care of family and kids and everything else, I think is really a unique place to build. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And for all the ladies that want to learn more about Disciple Media, definitely reach out to us here at truthbombmarketing.com. We would love to connect you with Disciple and have you have an extraordinary experience and answer any questions you have along your journey. So with that, thank you for your time, and we'll see you on the next episode.